We begin this hour with new reaction from the unsealing of a heavily redacted copy of the FBI affidavit used to justify the search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. It's also a club. The 36-page affidavit revealed details of the federal government's efforts to recover classified documents, including top secret information that Trump is alleged to have illegally taken from the White House at the end of his presidency. The affidavit states that in mid-May, FBI agents conducted a preliminary review of the contents of 15 boxes Trump returned to the National Archives from his Florida property in January, 15, and, quote, identified documents with classification markings in 14 of the 15 boxes. It states that agents found 184 unique documents that had classification markings. 25 documents were marked as top secret. 67 documents were marked as confidential, and 92 were marked secret. According to the affidavit, agents saw markings denoting various control systems designed to protect various types of information. They included markings that designate intelligence gathered by, quote, clandestine human sources, such as a report by a CIA officer or someone who works for the Defense Intelligence Agency. As for the redactions, they were primarily found in the section providing probable cause for the search, which is about 20 pages. One almost completely blacked out section is titled, "There is probable cause to believe that documents containing classified national defense information and presidential records remain at the premises." A federal judge has indicated she will appoint a special master to review the material seized from Mar-a-Lago by federal agents. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump in 2020, issued a 2-page order on Saturday, despite not yet hearing arguments from the Justice Department. The judge gave federal officials until tomorrow to provide the court with a more detailed list of items the FBI had removed from the Florida estate. National Intelligence Director Avril Haines announced her office will conduct a damage assessment related to Trump's handling of top secret documents. Writing in a letter to lawmakers on Friday, Haines said her office will, quote, lead an intelligence community assessment of the potential risk to national security that would result from the disclosure of the relevant documents. House Oversight Committee Chair Carolyn Maloney and House Intelligence Committee Chair Adam Schiff had asked for a security damage assessment in the days following the FBI search. Meanwhile, President Biden mocked Donald Trump's claim that Trump had declassified all the documents he brought with him to his Mar-a-Lago home after leaving the presidency.
President Trump said that he declassified all these documents. Could he have just declassified them all?
Well, I just want to know I've declassified everything in the world. I'm president. I can do it all. Come on. Declassified everything.
The president later gave a more nuanced response to the case, saying the DOJ is handling it.
Are you concerned national security compromising
We'll let the Justice Department determine that. We'll see what happens. The correct answer. We'll see what happens. Let's bring in Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and Washington correspondent for the New York Times, Charlie Savage. His latest reporting is titled "Possibility of Obstruction Looms Over Trump After Thwarted Efforts to Recover Documents." Also with us, Justice Department reporter for the New York Times, Katie Benner. Her latest piece is titled "Documented Inquiry Poses Unparalleled Test for Justice Department." Also with us, former acting Solicitor General and MSNBC legal analyst Neil Katyal and Jonathan Lemire back with us as well. Charlie, let me start with you. I found your article fascinating yesterday, where we're all talking about 184 unique documents with classified markings on them, 25 top secret documents, et cetera, et cetera. But you talked to legal analysts who suggested that the obstruction part of this investigation may be the most legally damning for the former president. Tell us why.
Or at least as perilous as this mishandling of national defense information problem. Yes, it's right that we have mainly been talking about the spectacle of finding these documents marked top secret and the questionable claim by Trump that he had somehow or had declassified anything that he randomly took out of the Oval Office. But looming over this whole problem he is entailing is a totally different legal issue, which is the potential charge of obstruction. Also listed in the search warrant was a provision of law that was passed as part of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act after the Enron and Arthur Andersen scandals, which makes it a crime to knowingly conceal documents to obstruct an official government effort, and which could be an investigation, like the Justice Department's attempt to get these documents back, or even just an official agency effort like the National Archives' earlier and ongoing effort to get all these publicly owned documents back that should not have been taken to Mar-a-Lago, whether they were classified or not. And so there's a lot of evidence that the efforts were continually thwarted. The archives was asking for it and they weren't getting it. Then they were given, well, here you can take these 15 boxes, but they weren't given everything. And then there was a search warrant, we know, and they got some more stuff, not a search warrant, a subpoena, which allowed them to turn over the documents. They turn over documents and they still don't turn over everything, which then leads to this search warrant. So there's lots of evidence that there was concealment of documents that thwarted ongoing efforts by two agencies to do their government work. The one piece that's missing from the publicly available evidence, and we don't know what's under those pages after pages after pages of redactions, is to what extent did Trump himself know that he still was holding on to documents that the government was trying to get back? And that's where the revelation in this affidavit that they were talking to multiple witnesses who had relevant information about what was at Mar-a-Lago becomes important.
And Katie, your latest reporting tracks with that. Justice officials haggled with Trump month after month after month, trying to get these documents back. Did they finally just give up? Is that why they went ahead and moved with the search warrant?
Yeah, based on our reporting, it's clear the Justice Department felt that it was pushed into this situation where they had to obtain a search warrant in order to get more materials from Mr. Trump and his legal team. We also know from our reporting that this case is nowhere near concluding. In the government's legal filings, they've described it as an ongoing matter, and people we've spoken to who have been briefed on the investigation, have knowledge of it, say that the career people who are working on this investigation inside of the National Security Division have not yet made any decision or come to any conclusion. Keep in mind that they need to do this first before making a recommendation up through the Deputy Attorney General's office and then to the Attorney General's office, saying whether or not they believe that Mr. Trump should be charged with a crime.
And so, Neil, it's fascinating, isn't it, that, again, they continue to claim that all these documents were declassified. As you've pointed out in the past, the lawyers haven't put that into any pleadings. And I'm just curious, what do you think about the latest developments? Have you heard any concern about the special master, or does that seem like a logical step?
Well, just to begin first with where Charlie and Katie did, because they are phenomenal lawyers, even and better than us lawyers actually at analyzing this. So there's two different buckets of potential crimes Trump faces. One is the obstruction charges that you were talking about with Charlie a moment ago. The other is the national security information that was retained, some of it classified, some of it doesn't need to be classified under the statutes. And there, the released affidavit is really quite damning, suggesting how much material was found at Mar-a-Lago. And I think the most important thing at this stage in the investigation, and Katie's absolutely right, the department's going to think through this all carefully, hasn't jumped to any conclusions, but we are 3 weeks into the search, Joe, at this point, and President Trump has still never explained once what in the world was he doing with all these highly classified and sensitive documents. And that's what, in my mind, makes it very hard to avoid a criminal indictment at this point if you're Donald Trump. I mean, he stole these documents, he lied about it, he then hid the documents and kept them hidden, and now he's thumbing his nose at the Justice Department and FBI and sending henchmen like Lindsey Graham out to threaten, the public a little bit with violence and the like.
Right.
It's very hard for the Justice Department to look the other way. I don't think the special master alone is going to do anything for Trump. That's a very minor procedural thing about someone who's going to look through the material to see if there's anything governed by executive privilege. Even if Trump even if there was something there, that would just be material returned to the archives, not to Donald Trump. And the Supreme Court's been very clear that it's the current holder of the executive privilege, that is President Biden, that decides this, not the former president. So I don't think that's going anywhere for him.
So, Neil, let's underline something that you said and expand on it a little bit. Not only is Donald Trump never once explained to the American people why he took all of these documents, why he took these classified documents, these top secret documents out of the White House. None of his defenders on television do. Lindsey Graham doesn't. Lindsey doesn't say that's a proper thing to do. We saw Roy Blunt yesterday saying that Trump shouldn't have done it. I mean, all we have is...
He doesn't deny he took them.
And well, of course, none of them deny that he took them because we know he took them, but nobody's explaining why. The Wall Street Journal editorial page writes an op-ed, writes an editorial saying, is that it? Never once addressing why there was any legitimate reason for him to take the documents. So now we've gotten to the stage where Lindsey's not talking about that. Instead, he's saying, if you prosecute him like you would prosecute any other elected official, there will be riots in the street. Republicans and Donald Trump supporters will riot in the streets.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Donald Trump and Lindsey Graham are not exactly quiet folks. So the silence here is incredibly, incredibly damning. And it's because you can't really come up with an explanation that makes any sense, I'm sure. I mean, everyone who's handled these really highly sensitive documents, as I have in 2 different times in the government, it'd be nice to be able to bring them home and, frankly, to have them as mementos afterwards. There's some pretty cool stuff we did. But of course not. You're told that every day.
Hey, honey, look what I did on the Manhattan Project. Yeah, exactly.